Well, welcome to the Church Office podcast.
My name's Gavin Smith, and if you're joining us on video, then here's a little wave.
We're excited to have Nigel Ring join us.
I've never actually heard the word wicked and accountant put in the same sentence.
Well, hello and welcome to the Church Office podcast. My name is Gavin Smith, and I've got Sam Lewis here today from ExpensePlus.
Hi, Gavin. Really nice to meet you finally in person. And we're at the UCAN Conference.
We are at the UCAN Conference, so if you get any noise or you get Andy Bagwell running in and just sort of, screaming, then yeah, we're here in present. There's 80 church administrators here. Loads of teaching, loads of great fellowship, just an opportunity to meet together. Mate, and you're on the hard sell, aren't you?
Well, I'm here with ExpensePlus, but I'm also leading one of the sessions, which was done earlier, all about budgeting and how to budget well. Yeah. And really, really awesome to get to do that. But I guess for me, the teaching is amazing at the conference. Good. And but actually getting to meet and network and hang out with other people that are ops, admin people in churches is just incredible.
It's good. It's good to be here. I'm joking about the hard sell because he's not at all like that at all. In fact, he's giving away chocolate. He's answering people's questions who already got ExpensePlus. They're just like taking advantage of you're here, and it's great to be able to kind of interact with you.
And it's amazing actually getting to chat with customers, getting to hear their feedback, getting to hear what they love, getting to hear, but could it do that? It's incredible. Like for me, this is what it's about. Yeah. Like we create software, but actually without the users, without the churches that use it, like it what is it? It's nothing. So actually it's amazing being here and amazing getting to chat to people.
It's great. And I was leading on a session today on how to do nothing. And we were talking about what tools we need that will enable us and save us time, will just make the whole process of work, communication easier. And, loads of people use Church Suite and loads of people use ExpensePlus. And there's a reason for it, because it really is a great piece of quality software. Yeah,
and in some ways, I don't know, accident is the wrong word, because God's been in it the whole way through, but it was kind of never a plan to do this. It was always about just solving a problem for our church, and it kind of grew from there, really. So, it's really exciting, but really exciting that churches are looking at how can they be more efficient, how can they use their resources really well, and it's brilliant to be part of that.
I love it. It's so good. It's so great to be able to sit and chat to Sam. I've wanted to talk to him for a while. He's up in Leeds. I'm in Wales. So, how do we make this happen? But we're here together. So really want to give an opportunity for our listeners to, to hear a bit about Sam's story, his church, and just how you created the software, mate. So tell us a bit about yourself and your family and church and...
Sure.
Go personal.
Get really personal. So I'm not originally from Leeds. I'm from Watford. So down south. After uni, I started working for Asda, and I was a grad with Asda, and that job took me kind of to different places around the country, and ultimately landed me in the head office where I was an IT project manager. So that's kind of, I guess, how I practically came to Leeds. I met my wife at university, and actually she came to Leeds. We weren't married at this point. We weren't even dating. She came to Leeds with a job as well, around about the same time. One of my best friends from school, who I'd lost touch with, also came to Leeds. He was a Christian, a brilliant man who had been praying for me for all those years without me even knowing it. And just God brought this kind of situation where we all end up in Leeds. We all ended up joining the church, which then I ultimately worked for. Mosaic Church was New Frontiers Church in Leeds. I went on an Alpha course, gave my life to Jesus, got married to my wife, became the ops manager. There's lots of things that happened, I think, in that order.
Yeah, so you become an ops manager. And then so the software then is just something you've developed essentially for your church at the time.
Yeah, so my background is in designing systems, project management, and so that's what I used to do at Asda. And so when I joined Mosaic Church as the ops manager, my first thing was, hey, look, this stuff needs improving. We need to do stuff better. And so it came out of a real desire to do that for our church. Amazingly, Pete, who is actually the co-founder of ExpensePlus, happened to be doing an FP Impact Year, which is kind of a voluntary year of training and serving the church. He's an amazing programmer, and God just brought us together, and
that.
and I had half a day a week of his time, so I thought I could get him to hoover the main church building, or we could build something here. And so we built the kind of pre-runner to ExpensePlus together.
That's superb, mate. That's superb. So tell us a bit about how far it's reaching. How many churches have you got using it? And we can talk about some of the features in a bit, but
sure.
how it's grown from your church, by the grace of God, out to what are we talking? Hundreds?
Yeah, hundreds of churches.
Amazing.
And which is fantastic. So, I mean, back to when we created it, we didn't actually, we didn't kind of make it known to other churches. Yeah. They kind of just somehow found out about it. And so kind of we grew, I think, to about 10 churches without even intentionally doing that. Wow. At which point we went, hang on a minute, if we're really going to bless churches, we've got to do this differently. We've got to develop it properly, support it properly, host it properly. And then that's kind of where ExpensePlus came from. Spent the first few years just building it, just with lots of love and lots of input from other churches. So Penny Clark, who's here, again, her church was a very early adopter, gave us brilliant feedback, loads of encouragement, and we kind of grew from there. And for the last 4 years, we've been growing by 50% every year in terms of customer base. Again, we don't market. We genuinely believe that we're doing the right things with ExpensePlus, and the users love it, and they tell other users. So hundreds of churches. I think we've got about 5,000 users as well. So that number's growing as well, and a growing team as well. But for us, it's not about growth. For us, it is all about seeing impact in churches and actually impacting people's lives and enable them to do more with their job and use resources well.
I love that. I love the heart behind the software, and it really is encouraging to hear. You're a local church man who's developed software to serve churches. And I think one of the challenges that I find in chatting to churches is that we've got a growing age of treasurers who are 70, 80. I met a treasurer the other day, he was 92, and he's still, as sharp as ever, working through the stuff by hand, doing stuff by paper. And I think this is a whole area that's going to become more and more of a challenge for churches to find people with that kind of finance background. What's been your experience?
Yeah, that's definitely true. And quite often we have people coming to us at the point that amazing treasurer leaves or says they're not going to do the role anymore. And it's often that when there is this void, the spreadsheets which cleverly link themselves together, and the person that knew it all in their head isn't there anymore. And churches do have that challenge. So we see that as a lot as well. That can be really hard if a church gets to the stage where the person's actually left. So again, we've seen churches where that person stepped down. It's only a year later that churches kind of go, we're really struggling right now. So it's definitely a challenge.
It's good. And if you're in a church in that situation and you're listening to the podcast, then do a review, talk to your treasurer. Let's find out how he's doing. Let's check in on his well-being. Let's make a plan to move towards some software, whether it's ExpensePlus or something else, because this is a whole area that we need the church to be thriving. We need the church to be doing so well in this area of governance and finance, and you've got the tools here to help. So tell me about some of the features. Like, what's the best bit about?
I knew you were going to ask this question, and it's such a hard question because actually, when I've been chatting to people, even at this conference, their best bit is different, and I love that. There is something genuinely in there for everyone. For me, one of the things so ExpensePlus, a lot of it is around streamlining the process, involving different members of the team in the process, making that removing waste, removing duplication, removing keying, writing things on paper and then keying them in, removing all of those things. So there's a lot about streamlining in ExpensePlus. But actually the bit that I personally love the most is the reporting side, actually being able to do something with the finance reports. So it's great if you can create finances, if you only have to pay a bookkeeper 1 day a week, not 4 days a week, that's great for your church, etc., etc. But actually being able to do something with your finances and your finance reports. So many churches, they spend so much effort creating financial reports that are out of date, and they can't, they don't know how to use them, that they can't find the information they need. That actually, it's just so sad, isn't it? That so much effort goes into doing something which decisions don't actually get made using. So
that's absolutely right. And reports at the minute are crucial, aren't they? As cash flow, as people are facing reduction in giving, you've got to make decisions that in your day-to-day working life around finances. If you don't have the up-to-date information, it's harder again. And yeah, I found the report side of things is just, it is so helpful for us in our role as ops.
Yeah,
definitely.
We've been talking at this conference about budgeting and about how do you manage your budget well. Lots of churches would say, but the budget holders, they don't take any ownership of their budget. But actually, hang on a minute, let's step back here. Do we give them live reports? Can they actually see what they spent, or are we actually being fair to them? Are we giving them the tools to do the job?
Yeah.
And I think that's a really key aspect. If people can actually manage their budgets, they can you can give them ownership, you can empower them, and actually you can get something amazing back that they can be part of what you're trying to do as a church.
Yeah, I get so many requests of how am I spending, and you're trying to get live data because they might buy something on a credit card, and then it's a month later before it gets processed, and so being able to use your system, live information is great and key to making good decisions, and that's fantastic. So what are your aspirations then for ExpensePlus? Because if you keep growing 50% each year, I mean, that's going to be harder and harder to manage, but a joy in another way that you're doing something that's outstanding with real excellence, that's really serving the wider church. I mean, mate, you should be so encouraged by that.
I mean, it's amazing. I get to work with an amazing team. I get to do something where I can genuinely come home every night and go, you know what, I love my job. Yeah. Like it's incredible. And so both of those things is brilliant. But actually getting to serve God with the gifts that He's given us is even better. Yeah. Like actually the gifts, the experiences that kind of I've had with Asda, with being the ops manager of the church that I've been part of, kind of all of that feels like that was kind of God preparing for the work that I'm doing. So firstly, I feel hugely blessed to actually get to do this. In terms of kind of the future, I guess there's probably a couple of things that come to mind. One, scalability. We've built scalability into everything that we've done, from how you book a tour for ExpensePlus to how we manage support. And so we have every year we look again and go, actually, how do we scale to the next level? So scalability is built in. So from that side, we're in a good place, which has been really crucial. I guess as well, like getting to meet with Gavin at Church Suite, getting to meet with kind of other peers that have kind of been able to encourage, point, share wisdom. That's been really helpful as well. It feels like we sort of know what is ahead a little bit, and we have a place to go to chat about.
It's great, isn't it? It's great to pick up the phone to Gavin and have a chat to him, and he has the same heart, and to want to serve churches and to make discipleship happen, which is ultimately what we're about, isn't it? Wanting to do that. Let me ask you a few more questions about ExpensePlus.
Sure.
So you talked a bit about scalability, and does it work for? Is there a limit on the kind of income levels? If someone's got £2 million coming in as a charity, can they use it? Can someone who's got £10,000 coming in as a charity, can they use it?
Yeah, I mean, we've built it. We've built it to be scalable. So actually, how it works inside ExpensePlus, you can customize. Okay. So we've got small, really tiny church plants. I think we've got a basketball community group using it. So really small, right up to multi-site churches. My church is actually a multi-site church, and to really big church. I think we've got churches that have kind of got £2.5-3 million income using it. So it works really nicely. It manages multiple funds. I'm aware that we've got a charity that uses it that gets lots of different grant funds, and they've got 60-70 different grant funds, and it works for them as well. So we've designed it deliberately to do that.
Great. So there's no issues of levels of funds. You find out more about it. So if someone wants to book a trial, go and check out your website. You can book online.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got a really good website which kind of explains more about the software. You can read reviews as well, and you can sign up for a free trial, and then there's an option to join a tour, which is I would say is the best thing to do if you're at all wanting to kind of unpack and go, hey, what is this ExpensePlus thing? Yeah. Could it even work for our church? And I've got 3 questions. The tour's great because you get to do that.
Okay, practical question, Sam. What about people's transferring over to you? People's got different year ends. Running parallel systems, all those kind of things. You must get these kind of what do I do if this is a case scenario? What do I do here? How do you do that kind of transfer of data? All those kind of changes at that point when you go, right, I'm sold, I'm going to do it. what happens next?
Yeah, I guess that's got a number of questions in one. So I'll try and answer them all. And if I don't, you can ask the question again. So I guess in terms of setting up ExpensePlus, which is the kind of first step, we've made that really intuitive. In fact, if we kind of had one of our top 3 sale points would be that we've made it simple. We've tried to use language that's accessible. You don't have to be a qualified accountant to be able to use it. And so actually the setup process is really streamlined. There's 5 very simple setup steps and videos that help you through that. In terms of data transfer, then, well, actually all different accounting systems work really, really differently. One thing that you would need to do is obviously start using ExpensePlus at the start of a financial year. But that doesn't mean you need to start using it at the start of your current. So if you're partway through your financial year, it's really, really easy to import your bank transactions, reconcile them. And again, we offer free support one-to-one for that. And so it's a really kind of streamlined process to get people set up. And the training comes with it. But actually, it's a really intuitive system. We've kind of got a little hierarchy in terms of how we do support that really users shouldn't even need to look in our help guide. And if they do, then we've probably done something wrong, or we need to improve our software. If they look in our help guide, they've still got questions. Again, we kind of go, our help guide definitely needs improving. And then if they contact us, we're really quick at responding to support. So for most people, they find setting up ExpensePlus pretty straightforward.
All right, Sam. So one of the other questions that people can have, and you talk to older generation, the idea of paying a subscription is like, no, I just want to buy the software and I'll use it. I don't need the updates, whatever. And the world has changed, isn't it, to subscription-based software, and that's what you guys are doing. What are some of the costs that people need to pay? Is there kind of bands of cost? Run me through some of that stuff.
Sure. So ExpensePlus is subscription-based. It's worth saying it's cloud fund accounting, so it's online. It's not a download. You can use it on any device, and it works really well on any device, any browser. And so actually, it being cloud-based does lend it much more to the subscription model. I guess one of the reasons why it's subscription is because we constantly develop it, we support it, we host it, and actually those costs are of subscription nature to us. So that is, you're right, this is a really common thing. People, wish they could sort of pay £300 and that be it, but that unfortunately isn't the way that the market is. In terms of the costs, so we try and keep our costs really, really simple, just like we try and make our software. And so we have pricing based on the annual income of each church or charity. And we do that rather than doing it per user, because actually ExpensePlus works best if you give as many users access as you need. So in our church, our volunteers can claim expenses. In our church, our trustees can view the reports and drill into the reports they need. And so it works best if you can have as many users as possible.
That's helpful.
So we do it based on size of income, and that's great because it means for your smaller churches and charities, they'll be paying something like £10 a month inclusive of that. For your larger ones, they'll be paying more towards the hosting and development. The average price that churches pay is £25 a month, obviously depending on the kind of size, but it's all inclusive. We fixed our prices until 2025. We've not increased our prices over the last 4 years, and we're not doing this to make lots of money. We're doing this because we genuinely love the churches that we serve, and that's our heart behind what we're doing.
I love that heart, and it's so lovely to hear. And it really is making a difference. The people that I speak at the conference here who are using it, I mean, they're out there selling it, mate, because they absolutely love it. They just find it gives them everything that they need to run their church. It gives them the tools to do. It saves them the time. I mean, there's so much. So mate, thanks for doing this, and thank you for your time coming on the podcast, sharing a bit about your story. If you've got any questions that you'd like to ask Sam, anything through the podcast, he's got loads of knowledge. You've been teaching budgeting here at the conference. Just draw in and ask some questions. If you'd like to find out more about ExpensePlus, then visit their website, check them out, find that free trial. It's a genuinely free trial. It's not trying to trick you into anything. These guys are great and their hearts are great. So highly recommend the software, and worth checking it out and seeing if you can use it more. So thank you for coming on today and listening to the podcast. If there's anything that we can do as a church office, please get in contact. Please look at the website. We've got a whole range of new podcasts, new documents, new things that are going up all the time. Please feel free to subscribe to the site and get the most up-to-date information. So thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me on.
Good man. Brilliant.